Coming up today on Locked On at Texas Tech, spring plans for Joey McGuire and the Red Raiders, and our guy Patrick Mahomes in a historical context. Next on Locked On Texas Tech.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We're going to start this thing off right. Raider! Everything runs through Lubbock.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. So visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started with the only Chris Level. I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to be back with you again, my man. And today, at least for one episode, a bit of a basketball break. We're back to hoops coming up to wrap up the week as we get ready for another big road challenge for Grant McCasland and the Red Raiders. But we got an extended football conversation to have here today. We're going to be talking about a GOAT in progress. Is he already there? Patrick Mahomes back in another AFC Championship game coming up this weekend, and also on a local front, some spring plans for Joey McGuire and the Red Raider football team, including a trip once again to Midland. Now, you may have to sort some of this out for me because once upon a time, there was like this red-black game. It was the spring game. It was the spring game. And then, with NCAA compliance in mind, rules, yada, 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 we're thinking about, okay, which one do we call a spring game? But we are also going to have this other scrimmage like open to the fan base here or there. So I still have some trouble sorting out what exactly the schedule will look like. But you may have seen as we catch up on some football news here today, Texas Tech announcing once again they will be southbound heading down to Midland for a spring game affair in front of some Red Raiders down in the Petroplex. But is this the only time that we'll see Texas Tech available to the public in action, click-clack in the hats this spring? Maybe that remains to be seen. But I remember the first time that they made a trip down to Midland, and I guess at that time it was Grande Communications Stadium. I don't know if it's still the same thing, but it seems like it's gone well enough to continue to do so.
Yeah, everybody does spring differently, and the way you some teams go early, some teams go late. You kind of set it up a variety of different ways. A lot of there's a lot of emphasis now on spring football really across the country because everybody's got so many new pieces that have just joined your team that it's really maybe, I don't know, in some ways more important now than it used to be. From the on the field competition and understanding schemes and developing chemistry and all those things. But Joey's not going to start spring practice this year until after Texas Tech's spring break, which is fairly late in the process. A lot of times coaches would start spring practice before spring break, maybe get a little, 4 under their belt, then take this break and then come back and then, finish it up. Because they didn't want to, go until April, mid to late April, because it's, but I think he doesn't want the break in between. He wants to kind of start it and then be able to finish it with no break in between, because the spring break is, it's about a 9 or 10 day break all told. But yeah, I was curious where when and where the spring game was going to be this year, just because I guess I didn't really think it would be Midland. But the reason why is that, you've got construction going on right now. You're not going to be done with everything. I just don't know. I think they want to stay out of those folks' way and not throw up any kind of potential roadblocks and like, hey, we're having a big event, so you guys are going to have to, time is of the essence right now. You're going to be pushing that deadline anyway, and I think that they just didn't want to cause any sort of problems by having that game and then having fans in there and all of that stuff, that's not fun for those of us that live in Lubbock and you want to just go see the spring game or whatever. But that's the reality of it. And so I think they maybe considered doing it again at Lowry Field in Lubbock, which is where they did it last year. John Harris and I fortunate enough to broadcast that game. But I guess because of being at Lowry last year, they wanted to, again, try to do something different this year. And the folks in Midland, Odessa, I think maybe, I don't know the stat. Somebody else would have to tell me. But there's something along the lines of it may be your second most concentrated season ticket base that you've got per capita outside of Lubbock. And so there's always been this connection. I mean, you played a basketball game there a few years ago when you couldn't get in your arena because of graduation, and you wanted to have so anyway, the Midland Odessa folks are great. Tim Culp, he's a board of regent. I think he's on the board of the Matador Club. I mean, anyway, there's a lot of folks there. And so they very much appreciate it. And you're kind of still taking the show in front of many, many fans based on your season ticket sales and things like that. So, yeah, they're going to get going in mid what is it like? Calend's like April the 20th. Does that sound right?
That's right. Yep.
Yeah. April the 20th, which is a Saturday. I think it'll be like a 1 to 3 p.m. scenario. There's also baseball going on in Lubbock against West Virginia that same weekend. So if you want to watch Tech sports in Lubbock that weekend, there's still something on the menu there for you. But that's kind of how we got to that point.
Yeah, and you mentioned time being of the essence back here in the LBK at the Jones as they're trying to get things ready for next season. And I think a deadline of August 24th or 25th or something like that to get things cooking, which has been of supreme interest, I think, to anybody that's paying attention to what's going on either in the South End Zone or over at the new football training facility that's going up after the old one went down. I mean, it's just kind of mind-boggling to think about how they could get that done, but you really can't get it done if you're taking any time off at all, I guess. So in that effort, this does make a lot of sense that you wouldn't want to be scooting anybody around. It'd be quite the experience if you were just doing only north end zone for this spring game. Meanwhile, we got hammers and cranes and drills and whatever going on there in the south end zone. I think clearly one is a priority over the other, right?
Yeah, because you've got there's all these compliance things and all this OSHA and everything. You've got when you're having fans in the stands. But I'll be interested. I think I'm comfortable in saying some aspects of the giant project will be finished when they need it to, but not all. And what does that look like? I don't know. I mean, that's just construction these days. That's just the way it works. They couldn't get this stuff in time, or the weather, or there's just with the supply chain being what it is. And so, we'll just kind of hold our collective breath and everybody stay out of their way over there. But meanwhile, Joey and them, they will still have spring practice over there for a variety of days on the practice fields. And that's going to be a bit different too, because the locker rooms that the visiting team used last year out in the parking lot, those trailers, that's what your team will use all throughout the spring. And then I think that may be what the equipment staff uses in the summer months or something. But then where it gets a bit tricky is that those trailers have to go when that first game rolls around, because I think that the folks in charge of creating parking revenue would like to have that revenue again on that side of the stadium and parking for games. And so those trailers got to go. But the bad part about going to Midland or going to Frisco, as it would have been, which you have done before, is that these spring games are really largely a recruiting tool to most. It is let's put on a show for our fans, yes, but potential prospective athletes, and get people on campus and just kind of let them feel the vibe of being around everybody and and all that. So that's the one negative there, that you're not going to be able to, but maybe you on a different Saturday, a different weekend, when you have a coaches clinic and you have a bunch of prospects in town on a weekend like that. So maybe you get the best of both worlds, but you're not ready to show them everything either. Although you can show them the cranes and all that stuff, but you're ready. It looks a lot better now than it did, but there is no building there. Like, I don't know where you host these things. There is no football building. It's like it's just gone. It's just it's going to be wild, when the sight line of everything over there for years has looked the same, and now it's changed drastically.
Yeah, I had an opportunity to be on campus the other day, close to the Fraser there on the southwest corner of the Jones, and I don't know how many people I know plenty have been watching on the construction camp. I mean, we've been battling that show for views for a year, it seems like.
Oh yeah, hey, the cameras, it's not working.
Oh my God, people are rioting when the camera's down. There's a whole lot going on, and of course, summer just around the corner, football just around the corner as well. And with that in mind, Chris, got another announcement from Texas Tech this week. First, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. And football is close to wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action with America's #1 sports book and the official sports book of Locked On. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place only a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. So many ways to spice up the action with FanDuel's safe, secure, and easy-to-use app. Are you really even parlaying if you're not visiting FanDuel's Parlay Hub? I doubt it. So get to FanDuel.com/lockedon today. And if you're a new customer, take advantage of $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place only a $5 bet with FanDuel at FanDuel.com/lockedon, official partner of the NFL. That was revealing a group of captains for this team moving forward. If you didn't see it, it's going to be Bryce Ramirez, Jacob Rodriguez, Taj Brooks, Baron Morton, and Caleb Rogers. This seems awfully early for an announcement like that. I may just be, misremembering sometimes that it came as early as this. But I was curious what you thought about the timeliness of it, and of course, what you think about the group.
Yeah, so I wasn't obviously expecting this announcement this soon. However, I would tell you that this is kind of no-brainer. It was one of those things where they're getting this semester going. Let's go ahead and set the groundwork here. And I could back with the spring game conversation and just spring in general with so many new pieces. Because think about it, Casey. You've got you've added. I don't know what the total number is, but let's just put a number on it. You've added 30 to 40 new players to your team, like at semester, ish. Maybe it's 25 or whatever, but you had all your early signees from a high school standpoint, which was like 11. You added your whole transfer portal class. Then you've added some of these big time, call them what it is, walk-ons at the tail end of it. But yeah, you just got so many new pieces. But the most important part of your team is like the guys that we're going to talk about now, and like the culture guys, because all these new pieces. Hey, how do we do things here? What is coach's expectation? How is it going to go during the spring? Is he a yeller? Whatever. Whatever your question you would ask, you've got to have people that are. So maybe that's partly why you announce your captains and all that much earlier, because there's so many new pieces to your roster. Looking around, going, all right, who's leading this deal? Like, who do I respect? Who can help me, point me in the right direction, whatever it may be. But I'll tell you that this is the reason I say that this kind of group, it's not a quartet. What's a fivesome? What is that? What do we do there?
A pentet?
Oh yeah, we'll go with that. Sure. It sounded great. I couldn't spit that out. You did.
No, I did.
Yes. Okay, we'll go with that.
We got 5 of them.
Yeah,
we call that a handful.
Yeah, that's right. But this particular group, I think, was consulted on a variety of things in December by coaches. There was even, some, question on some of your portal entries, like, hey, do we want to keep him here? Like, hey group, what are your thoughts? And so, yeah, and then it was like truth telling time. And I think that this group on more than one occasion was like, hey man, let him go. Like, we'll be just fine. Like, for these reasons. But the consultation part of it is the reason why I bring that up, because this is a group that already was in a leadership position anyway. We know what each one of them stands for. I mean, you're one returning offensive lineman, you're all conference type running back, maybe even All-American. You're starting quarterback, Bryce Ramirez. We know what he stands for. If you can't believe in a guy like that and that smile, then you're just in the wrong fan base. And then this is a Jacob Rodriguez podcast as much as it is anything. So I mean, with what he does and how smart he is and kind of player he is and all that stuff. So yeah, I think this is a really good group. But they've been in a leadership position before being labeled a captain, if that makes sense. And I want to say Taj was a captain last year too, I think.
Yeah, and I know Coach McGuire talked about last year also. I don't know if this mirrored exactly a list of captains, but a leadership council or a leadership powwow or something like that he would be meeting with regularly. Seeing a group of guys like that also makes me think about who's not there. And I think about like Rabbit is really the first one I think about, because I know that he was always somebody that was in
Tony
those conversations. That's right, Tony and Jalen.
Yeah.
So while you see some familiar faces there, and certainly Taj Brooks, big chief among them, there are going to be some big shoes to fill, somewhat figuratively, somewhat literally as well, whenever we're getting back to it. And I guess as we sit here during this portion of the calendar, it's all just eating weights, right? I know they're playing school as well. They're playing biology. They're playing math. They're playing whatever. But we're playing weightlifting, I think, at the same time right now. I see Texas Tech pumping up some competition between various groups of players. This week's, weight room or lifter of the week, I think Mason Tharp is on that list. I thought I saw last week possibly, but it's all about, as an old coach of mine used to say, as an answer to any question about his football team. Didn't matter what the question was. The answer was always, we got to get stronger. We got to get stronger. I mean, that's just the theme of every day, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, they try to, they've divided the team up in the spring, like this portion of the calendar in a variety of different teams, like 8 to 10 of them. That they had a release out about that the other day. They've all got Twitter accounts, and part of their challenge is like to, get some social media following and activity and all those things. And then, but they try to make the hard days fun by, having a high school day to where everybody divides up and competes against each other with their high school gear on. And so you've got the Oklahoma guys and the West Texas guys versus the Central Texas guys versus the H-Town guys versus the Metroplex guys versus the East Texas guys, and they do a variety of different things just to be creative to kind of get you through these times of the year, because this is the not fun part, right? You've just finished up the season. That's the fun part. Spring football is not, I don't know, fun, but it's probably less monotonous than just like off-season stuff. But they're doing a variety of different things right now. But yeah, it's eating weights. I think that's probably a good, not literally, but chicken and then lift, kind of thing. Not actually eating the iron. Because heck, man, you don't really have your weight room's gone too.
Yeah, that's true.
So, yeah, you got a different. I think they like the indoor on the field. They like built a temporary weight room over there in the corner, and then there's like the weight room in the indoor facility too that most of the other teams use. But yeah, that was also displaced. So
if you get into the season and you haven't lifted weights in the off season, what are you going to say in the fourth quarter? You're not going to be able to say, that's what you lift all them weights for. So it's really a part of the entire process, well beyond just strength and conditioning. The coaches need something to say in the fourth quarter, so they can call back to this as well. All right, let's finish it up still in a football category. But let's head to the National Football League, where this weekend we've got championship weekend coming up, which will feature, once again, the great Patrick Mahomes. And before we get into this Patrick Mahomes altar to worship at the feet of the all, okay, never mind. I'm playing it on a little too thick. We must also send a shout out, I feel like, Chris, to the great Broderick Washington, who is also going to be on the field. Another Red Raider who I want to point out has made a hell of a living for himself in the National Football League as well. He'll be lining up there in purple or black or whatever the Ravens are going to be rocking. But, considering this week some of what Patrick Mahomes has already achieved, I think it's a 6th straight trip to an AFC championship game. You're talking multiple MVPs, multiple Super Bowls, going for another. And I don't know. I did anticipate that Patrick Mahomes would have a fruitful NFL career. I thought those who belittled him as far as the NFL draft was concerned years ago had just simply not seen Texas Tech football, which is no great crime. It is a great shame, but I just assumed they have not seen it because there was talk of like, oh, system QB. I mean, this is so far after Mike Leach, by the way. Update the talking points, boys. But they didn't. System QB. These Texas Tech quarterbacks. I'm like, brother, if you ever saw Patrick Mahomes, you would understand this dude is unlike any, not just Texas Tech quarterback, but unlike any quarterback I've really ever seen, certainly in person. And I think Texas Tech was the perfect fit to showcase some of what he could do because nobody at that time would have put him in more 3rd and 13s, I don't think, than the Red Raiders did, where then he really could shine because whenever the ish was hitting the fan, that was when Patrick Mahomes seemingly was going to be at his best. So I'm not surprised about, significant impact in the National Football League or the ability to have a prolonged career as a starter. I don't know who's penciling in this kind of success, but here we are once again, championship weekend, and our guy Pat is involved.
Yeah, and I appreciate the mention of Broderick Washington. I think Pat overshadows so much, but, I think your other NFL guys that there's a lot of them, obviously maybe I don't know if it's the right word is deserve the same attention, but it's like, man, there's some good dudes out there and Broderick
we're proud of them too.
Hey, speaking of East Texas, I mean, Broderick was a stud here and he's been playing on one of the best teams in the NFL and starting all year. And so you're guaranteed to have a Red Raider in the Super Bowl by virtue of these guys playing each other. Pat, ever since he's been a starter. So you mentioned this 6 times, but that's all the years that he's been a starter. So he's never not made the AFC Championship game. That's wild to me. The fact that he just won a game in Buffalo in the playoffs, his first road playoff game, much less win. I think that is wild because he'd never been out of KC for the playoffs. That's crazy to me. But he probably won't. He's not going to win MVP this year. He may be going against that. Lamar Jackson may end up getting that nod, or if not, Brock Purdy, the San Francisco quarterback, former Iowa State Cyclone, may get it. But yeah, because you'd asked me earlier in the week, like, man, if he were to be done right now, like pull a Barry Sanders and just walk off, he's not going to. I mean, obviously, but is he Hall of Fame worthy? The answer is yes. I don't. Typically, the NFL doesn't roll that way. There's got to be some longevity there. That's kind of what I think got somebody like Wes Welker, who I think was one of the best receivers in the NFL for about a 2 or 3 year span and had lots of, but never won the Super Bowl and all that stuff. And that people will say, well, he didn't do it for long enough or whatever. I don't know. The NFL Hall of Fame is a bit tricky because they're very proud of it. The process is weird. Darren Woodson, I've thought for years deserves to be in it, but he's still waiting. So you just never know. But what this player has done in such a short time frame is, unprecedented. And it's funny. I think you probably see some of the same stuff I do. What's funny is, I grew up a Cowboy fan. I'm a Cowboy fan, right? Okay. So live and die. Yeah. Make fun of me all you want, but I'm an easy target, right? Because there's plenty to make fun of, especially recently. But there's a lot of Chiefs fans out there that are new Chiefs fans that I think are like the Tech fan that are really Mahomes fans, but they've kind of channeled their NFL fandom and pointed it toward the Chiefs because they're good. There's a Tech connection, all that stuff. But what you're seeing out there too is like people are, they're ready to tear Pat down a bit just because I think they're tired of the show.
Yeah.
It's like, I think that's you're seeing a bit of that. I see it on Twitter, like on Sundays a little bit, like, the way he acts after a call, but this is what happens when you're at the top and there's nothing to poke at. You try to tear him down a bit, and he's been at the top and is still there. And there's some negative, not from like our people, quote unquote, but just in general. But that's because he's been squeaky clean and just won, and he's young, and it's like, what is there not to like? And so, but this is what happens.
Yeah, no, I have seen kind of the same thing, but that's just the, I guess, traditional cycle that we're going through. I don't know, it may depend on your era, who you think is the greatest quarterback of all time. Certainly in this day and age, I think Tom Brady would have to be the standard. And when you compare and contrast some things statistically between those two guys, there's not a whole lot of difference. I think by this point in his career, which Patrick's season is yet to be completed, so we'll see what he's able to stack up there. I think Patrick is one shy as far as a Super Bowl win from Tom Brady. Otherwise, he's got and this is a different offense and things like that. But I don't know. What did I see? Like 60 or 70 more touchdowns, I think, thrown by Mahomes to this point in his career than what Brady had through a similar time period. So is he a Hall of Fame guy? If he was to hang it up right now, I think the answer would be yes. But more importantly, Chris, I don't know. It seems like people always want to latch on to somebody that's kind of redefining the position. And mostly I think that is a prisoner of the moment conversation in some years gone by. I touched on this briefly yesterday. Everybody always wants to talk about like a dual threat quarterback in the National Football League. Has not worked out over the years at all. Like, these guys get hurt. They don't last very long. Guys are fast everywhere defensively when you're talking about the National Football League. It's not the same as college football. Sometimes, as I mentioned yesterday, if you're talking about a guy like Michael Vick or now Lamar Jackson, these are just individually great guys. I don't think they're redefining the position. I think it's honestly an insult to them to say, well, this is what the QB position is now. No, these guys are just amazing. And they're like the only ones that can do it. But, Patrick Mahomes may in a way redefine a position, but I'm not so sure that, again, it's not just one of the most unique athletes that we've ever seen, because his ability, again, to make chicken soup out of chicken spit, we saw it plenty of times. I'll never forget the Tech Oklahoma game that was set defense back 100 years between Patrick and Baker Mayfield as a quarterback for Oklahoma. And late in the game, Texas Tech's average yardage needed on third down was 12, and yet they were close to 70% conversion rate. And it was all because of, I've never seen anything like that, where it was so bad as far as the situation, yet you were still finding so much success, all because of Patrick Mahomes. And I still remember going back to some of those early throws. There was a throw against Louisiana Tech. Why would I remember a Louisiana Tech, Texas Tech game? Well, it's because Patrick Mahomes was involved, and that was one of the first times he made a throw that I thought, a body shouldn't be able to do that at that angle, going against the grain. And then it was 55, 60 yards down the field. And a dot. I just never seen anything like it. I don't know if you have anybody to compare in all your years of watching Tech football or just football in general, but the dude is unique unto himself for more reasons than we have time to list here in the remainder of the episode.
Well, he's the Grim Reaper. Because you think about redefining the position. Think about the dude that was on the other quarterback in the other team this past weekend in their game. Josh Allen, freak, redefines the position to me. I've never seen that size, what he can do. He's phenomenal. But it's almost like Mahomes makes his kicker better than what Josh Allen can make his kicker, right? But because the Chiefs just win those kinds of games and the Bills just don't, or whatever it is, but it's the guy that he's going to go against this week also redefines the position. Lamar Jackson, freak. You're not going to see another guy like this in our lifetime. This is a unique, but I think Lamar Jackson going into this weekend is, 1-3 or 2-3 in the playoffs as a starter. For all his freakness, he just hasn't, been able to have success in the playoffs, which that's what, right, wrong, or indifferent, man, that's how you are judged
Sure.
In success in professional sports. It's not about regular season awards and accolades, and people can make it about that, but you get in the Hall of Fame because of what you do in the postseason and how many Lombardi trophies you hold up. And so it's been fun to, and it was a struggle for Pat and the Chiefs some this year, which kind of makes this one maybe a bit sweeter than normally. There's some injuries. There's the Taylor Swift stuff going on. There's the Kadarius Toney shenanigans. There's we're not, we got to go play a road game. We didn't, lock it up, and we're not a high seed and all that business. And so anyway, because they were a wild card team, and it's been interesting to just kind of watch, because this one, some of the other years they made it look really easy. Like, of course they're going to win. Yep. Like, there's nobody's touching them. And this year you're like, I don't know, but here they are again in the Final Four. So, but yeah, Pat's the biggest reason why.
Can't wait to see what happens, because he's got a huge, huge challenge on his hands. And I'm talking about Lamar Jackson. That Baltimore defense is nasty. So looking forward to that one, and looking forward to being back with you. Give it up. Tomorrow, we're into a hoops primer as we're getting set for the Red Raiders to hit the road for another top 25 challenge, as they'll be taking on the Oklahoma Sooners. We'll get back to Big 12 basketball coming up on the other side. So I hope you'll join us for that as we wrap up the week. Chris, appreciate the time as always, man. Enjoyed it.
We'll talk to you tomorrow. Keep hope alive, everybody.
And make sure you're subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. For Chris, I'm Casey. Thanks for being out there, and we hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.